22. Sargon's Castle. Bernice struggled to control her fear. "Won't you introduce me to your friends? Though, come to think of it, one of them does look familiar." "They're vampire lords," said Romana steadily. "Zargo and Camilla and Orkon, their high priest. They lived in the tower when the doctor and I first came here. I rather thought we'd dealt with them. Not very effectively, it seems." In the road ahead, the three vampires waited, smiling. Camilla toyed with a little silver dagger at her waist. "Have you got any of that Garrel flour?" asked Romana. "Used it all up on my last vampire. I'm fresh out of sharpened steaks as well. Then we've got just one chance, and I don't pretend it's a very good one." "Which is?" "Ride straight at them. Ride through them if you can, and on over the hill. If we can escape them till dawn—" Romana leaned over, whispered in the grey mare's ear, and touched it lightly with her knees. The grey mare sprang forward. Bernice, not so well acquainted with her mount, had to use less subtle methods. She jabbed her heels into the black stallion's flanks, slapped it hard on the rump, and yelled, "Hi-ya!" into its ear. The already nervous stallion shot forward after the mare. The three vampires waited unmoving as the two horses thundered towards them. At the last possible moment, they floated aside and up into the air. Then Zargo and Camilla swooped down upon the two riders. Bernice became aware that there was someone on the saddle behind her, thin white arms gripping her fast. She looked over her shoulder and saw Camilla's white face, saw red lips draw back to reveal pointed teeth. With a yell of fear, Bernice hurled herself backwards from the saddle. She crashed to the ground, thankful that the vampire was underneath to break her fall. Camilla's body felt incredibly strong and wiry, as if made from springs and hard rubber. The impact of the fall knocked them apart, and Bernice rolled over and got to her feet. Camilla stood waiting in front of her. She saw Zargo drag Romana from the saddle and hurl her to the ground. She helped Romana up, and they backed away from the advancing vampires, only to find Orkon cutting off their retreat. Bernice and Romana stood back to back as the vampires advanced, claw-like hands outstretched. Bernice drew her blaster. She knew it was helpless, but it was better to go down fighting. Suddenly, a deep voice rang out, "Begone, accursed creatures of the night!" A white-bearded, white-robed figure stood on top of the hill. Behind him appeared soldiers with blazing torches. "Begone!" boomed the white-robed figure again. Its arm swept down, and a ball of flame sizzled down from the hill, exploding at the feet of the vampires in a blaze of golden light that lit up the surrounding countryside like day. The vampires fled. The bearded man ran down the hill towards them, followed by torch-bearing soldiers. Two of them recaptured the grey mare and the black stallion. A third led up a great white horse for the old man. "Quickly," he said. "These evil creatures fear the light of fire, since it reminds them of dawn, but they can bear it if they must. We must leave here before they realize that mine was but a false dawn." Even in the middle of a life-and-death crisis, Romana didn't forget her manners. "We owe you our lives, sir," she said. "May we know the name of our rescuer?" "I am Lord Sargon," said the old man simply. "And you, I think, are the Lady Romana." "We were just coming to find you," cried Bernice. "Fortunately, my dear, I was also just coming to find you," said the old man courteously. "Now, I suggest we leave this evil place before the vampires come back and find us all." He swung himself easily into his saddle, and Bernice and Romana did the same. They rode to the top of the hill where more soldiers waited, holding horses. When everyone had remounted, the old man led the way down the hill and across the flat plain beyond, Romana and Bernice riding close behind him. The soldiers followed, their torches blazing a fiery trail across the darkness. Bernice was never sure how long they rode. The events of the night and the last-minute escape from the vampires had left her curiously light-headed, and she felt no fatigue. The first pale streaks of dawn were in the sky by the time they rode up to a many-turreted castle on the brow of a low hill. They clattered through a stone arch into a cobbled courtyard, and castle guards, armed with blasters, came forward to take the horses. More servants ushered them into a big kitchen with a blazing fire, where they were given hot soup and soothing cordials. "No formality tonight," said Lord Sargon firmly. "Tomorrow, when you have both rested, I shall receive you in a more fitting manner." Bernice was shown to a tapestry-hung chamber with a fire in the hearth, fur rugs on the stone floor, and a curtained four-poster bed. A maid helped her into a sleeping robe, and before she knew it, she was sound asleep. When she awoke the next morning, the sun was already high in the sky. A maid appeared with a steaming mug of herbal tea. When she had finished it, she was shown to an adjoining chamber, the floor of which dipped to form a giant bowl filled with bubbling water. Bernice braced herself for a cold plunge, and was amazed to find the water pleasantly warm. Wrapped in a vast towel, she looked around for her clothes. Her safari jacket was hanging on a carved chair, but everything else seemed to have vanished. "Your garments are being washed, milady," said the maid. "There are others for you to wear meanwhile. When you are ready, Lord Sargon and Lady Romana await you on the terrace." The other clothes consisted of an assortment of underdresses and robes that left Bernice feeling like a fairy princess in a hollow-vid historical. As soon as she was dressed, the maid led her along the stone-flagged corridors of the castle. It was a pleasant, airy place, built from an attractive pale grey stone, with frequent windows and archways to let in the light. It was quite different from the tower, thought Bernice. No doubt that was because it was a proper castle, not a converted spaceship. They climbed endless flights of winding stone stairs and came out onto a sunny terrace. There she found Lord Sargon and Romana sitting around a stone table, enjoying bread and cheese and fruit, and drinking wine from silver flagons. She sat down to join them. The terrace looked out over rolling green countryside that looked very much more pleasant than anywhere else she'd seen so far. She said as much to Lord Sargon. "You must not judge us by Ivo's village and the tower," he said. "That part of the country is tainted by the evil that harboured for so long." "And is harbouring again," said Romana. "Those creatures you rescued us from were the original three who rule. Though how they have managed to survive and return—" "If there is one thing I have learned about vampires," said Lord Sargon, "and I like to think that I have learned a great deal, it's that they cling with incredible strength to life, or rather to their own version of life, which is living death. They seemed to have re-established themselves in the tower. There must be a sizable colony of them." "More than just the three we saw last night?" asked Bernice. "I fear so," said Sargon gravely. "As soon as the sun rose, I sent a scouting party back to the area. They have just reported back." He paused for a moment. "There are bodies all over the woodland area, a patrol of guards, and a considerable number of armed peasants, all dead, and all drained of blood. For the vampires to overcome so many, they were helped by the fact that guards and the peasants were busy killing each other," said Romana bitterly. She gave Sargon an account of the background to last night's events. "I'm sure you're right," said Sargon when she had finished. "When the fighting was at its height, the vampires must have attacked both sides at once. Even so, such slaughter could only be the work of a considerable number." "It's odd, though," said Bernice. "I only ever saw one vampire actually in the tower. The tall one from the three we saw last night." Romana nodded, remembering. "Lord Zargo." And right after that, I got a party of villagers to search the whole place. We didn't find a single vampire, let alone a nest of them." "No doubt their hiding place eluded you," said Lord Sargon. "They are very cunning." He paused for a moment, stroking his beard with a long white hand. "The terrible events of last night do offer a ray of hope. The fact that the peasants and the guards, the soldiers of the lords, all suffered alike, may unite them against a common enemy." "I'm afraid it's not that simple," said Bernice bluntly. "As far as I can gather, lords and vampires are all mixed up in people's minds. They're going to need a lot of convincing that you're not just trying to bring back the bad old days." Romana gave her a reproving look. Lord Sargon smiled sadly. "I am afraid that what you say is all too true. Many of the great houses bore the taint of vampirism. When the vampires were overthrown, many lords overreacted. They tried to pretend that vampires did not exist, had never existed. Naturally enough, they were not believed." "But you thought differently?" "I felt that no problem can be dealt with unless its existence is admitted. So against much opposition, I started my vampire museum. Would you care to see it?" Bernice felt she had had enough vampires to last her for a while, but Romana, polite as ever, said, "We'd love to." The old man led them down several flights of stone stairs to a large chamber underneath the castle. It had a vaulted stone roof supported by stone pillars, and to Bernice's astonishment, it was lit by softly glowing glass globes in holders on the walls. The room was filled with display cases holding maps, charts, and all kinds of exhibits. Proudly, the old man showed them round. "If we begin here, the cases tell the story in the correct historical order." The early cases concerned the history of the planet. Before the arrival of the great vampire, it had been a still traditional society, but one in the middle of a sudden flowering of scientific and technological breakthrough, like Earth, thought Bernice, in the late 18th and early 19th century. "We had discovered steam power," said the old man proudly, pointing to a case of early designs and models. "I have managed to recreate some of these discoveries. We have a generator beneath the castle, which gives us light and heat." He took them to another case, filled with cumbersome-looking muskets and blunderbusses, and enormous bell-mouthed pistols. "We had discovered projectile weapons too, and simple explosives." "That thing you chucked at the vampires," said Bernice. "An invention of my own," said Lord Sargon. "It is a great success at village festivals, and as you saw, it has other uses." He led them to an alcove, which was covered with a curtain. "Then the great abomination descended upon our world, and the Age of Darkness began. A giant vampire appeared above our planet, wounded, apparently dying. Here is the moment as the greatest of our ancient artists imagined it." He drew back the curtain to reveal a horrifying picture. A great beast, part man, part bat, hovered in space, blood dripping from a gaping wound in its leathery skinned side. It had huge wings and a massive rat-like head, with great, savage fangs.